All right, get this for a social experiment. You take a former cop and you take a former criminal. You lock them in a prison cell together for 100 days. And dangling at the end of it all, a $500,000 prize. This whole thing was designed to push the absolute limits of trust, cooperation, and, basic human nature.
And talk about setting the tone from day one. That's a direct quote from Ian, the criminal, before he'd even spent a single minute in the cell. So right from the jump, you've got this incredibly tense adversarial dynamic. It just makes you wonder, is it even possible for two guys from opposite sides of the law to work together when that much cash is on the line?
So, let's meet the two guys at the center of this thing. First up, we've got Lenny. He's a cop, 17 years on the force, a total rule follower, but he has absolutely no idea what it's like to be on this side of the bars. And then you've got Ian. He did 3 years in federal prison for fraud. He's street smart. He knows the prison system inside and out. I mean, you couldn't find two more different people if you tried.
The rules sound pretty simple, right? Just survive 100 days together and split $500,000. But, and this is a huge but, if one guy decides to walk, they both get nothing. Zero. Their fates are completely tied together. And to top it off, every single little comfort they want is going to chip away at that big prize. And this is where things start to get really interesting. This is the first phase of the experiment, and right away their resolve gets put to the test. Mr. Beast starts throwing these really tempting offers at them, but every single one has a price tag that comes directly out of their winnings. So get this, it's only day 10. They've been cooped up for just over a week, and here comes the first big test. They get offered 1 hour of access to a prison rec yard every single day. The price? A whopping $50,000. Is an hour in the sun worth 10% of the entire prize?
And they both said yes. Just like that, they agreed to buy it. Their prize money instantly drops down to $450,000. Now, this was a really big deal. It was the first real sign that, hey, maybe these two can actually work together and that they're willing to pay a lot for their sanity.
Okay, so 10 days later, another offer hits the table. Trade that rec yard they just bought for a fully stocked kitchen. Now remember, they're eating awful prison food. But you know what? It was a hard no from both of them. No hesitation. They chose that hour of freedom outdoors over better food, which just goes to show you how much they needed that little slice of normalcy. So, just when it seems like they're finding a groove, the whole game changes. The offers aren't just about comfort anymore. Now it's about fairness, it's about trust. And this is where the first real crack in their partnership starts to show. A free library gets offered up, but here's the twist. Only one of them can use it. For Lenny the cop, this was more than just a way to kill time. He saw it as a spiritual necessity, basically saying that having a Bible was the only thing that was going to get him through the next 70 days. But Ian, well, he saw it totally differently. His reaction just lays bare this first major conflict between them. He felt like he was being judged, like his need for something to read was somehow less important just because he wasn't religious. It was a serious clash of values, and it almost blew the whole thing up. And then, in a move nobody saw coming, Lenny actually gives the library to Ian just to be fair. But Ian, being Ian, couldn't let it go. He starts smuggling pages and then whole books out for Lenny. It was this weird mix of rebellion and teamwork, but they were breaking the rules. And a shared secret like that, well, it was bound to blow up in their faces. And boy, did it blow up. The punishment was just brutal. On day 50, both of their families are right there, waiting outside. But because they broke the rules, only one of them gets a visit. Ian lets Lenny have it. But while Lenny is seeing his family, Ian gets thrown into solitary confinement. I mean, what a devastating way to try and tear them apart. And yeah, it worked. When Ian got out of solitary, he was a different person. He was just furious. He felt that when they got caught, Lenny didn't have his back, that he snitched on him. And this idea of Lenny the snitch just got stuck in his head. It sent him into a really dark place and completely shattered whatever trust they had managed to build. So this is it. Rock bottom. Ian is totally done. He's ready to quit, which, means they both walk away with absolutely nothing. And it's right at this moment, when all hope seems lost, that a brand new challenge appears. One that's either going to break them for good or, somehow, force them back together. So the challenge looks simple enough. Break open a 2,000-pound boulder. But it was a huge gamble. They had to pay $50,000 just to even try. If they could crack it open in 10 days, they'd win $100,000, doubling their money. But if they failed, that $50,000 was just gone.
It was going to take some serious teamwork.
So at first, they're just wailing on this thing, and it's getting them nowhere. But then, and you can't make this up, Ian uses one of those smuggled books to research geology. He figures out the science of how to break the rock, finding its weak points. So they combine his brains with their combined muscle, and on the very last day, it cracks.
So boom, they made a $50,000 profit, bringing their total up to $480,000. But honestly, the money was secondary. The real win was that the struggle brought them back together. They had fixed their broken partnership. They were a team again.
But you know how these things go. Right after their biggest win, their moment of triumph, comes the final, most vicious test of all. After 99 days of fighting and making up, it all comes down to one little choice that could undo everything.
And here it is, the classic prisoner's dilemma. For the last 24 hours, they're put in separate solitary cells. Each guy has a button in his room. If you press the button, you get to leave right away. And you take all $480,000. Your partner gets nothing. If neither of you presses it, you both wait out the 24 hours and you split the money. It's all about trust.
And man, you can just feel the mental torture. Ian is thinking, I could fix my whole life with one push of a button, and he feels like he's had it rougher in there anyway. Meanwhile, Lenny's terrified that Ian's old habits will kick in, that a guy who literally went to prison for fraud just won't be able to resist the temptation. So this is the moment of truth. After everything they went through, the fights, the teamwork, the boulder, all of it, what would you do? Do you trust the guy you've been locked up with for 99 days, or do you take the money and run? And in the end, neither of them pushed the button. When that timer hit 0, they were both still there. Their trust in each other actually held up. They each walked out of there with $240,000. And their reaction at the end just says it all. All those labels that had defined them for so long, they were just gone. They weren't the cop and the con anymore. They were partners. They had turned this completely adversarial situation into a real lifelong friendship.
And that leaves us with this one last, really interesting question to think about. This whole thing wasn't really just about the money, was it? It was about who we are. It makes you wonder, if you force two people to rely on each other to survive, can that shared struggle really truly wash away the labels that have defined them their entire lives?